I'm suffering at night too, sometimes I can't cope with pain, but I feel for my 4-year-old daughter. We moved when my daughter was 1 year old. She came with rash, her arms bleeding with rash. The doctor couldn't take away the rash. We had to go away to cottages to, spend money to be away of the house. Then she started hearing a sound. Listen to all of you. The mouse, all of these mice, they cause a sound, a pulsing sound. It was like a bee was in her ears. She said, Mommy says, in her coat, she couldn't sleep. She woke up about up to 15 times a night, saying, Dr. Charles, I'm telling you, please to help us. Because she said, Mom, there is the wind in my ears. There is a plane in my coat. Please, Mom, take it away. I have to put a radio on the thing. I'm sorry I'm emotional, but what do I do with my daughter? She's covered in rash. When I take her to Peru, to South America, her body clears. The doctor has checked it. Her doctor says, I can't help you. There is no guidelines in the NHS. He says, we can't help you. Go back to the Hair Protection Agency. Hair Protection Agency says, go back to your doctor. Where do I go now? I've been Hair Protection Agency, doctor, Sweden. Professor Hardy says it's very easy to prove that your daughter suffers from electromagnetic radiation because a simple test that costs 2,000 pounds, it will prove it. He says, I'll do it for you, but he says you have to go to the government, and I'll do it when the government, to be validated by the government. Please help me. Please help me. I'm in pain.
I also added about the rash. Okay. And then the one behind is yellow, the freelance.
I answered you together. Is that okay?
Okay. And then there's this thing over this side. I'll come back to this.
Okay, the settlement. I didn't do anything that was culpable in that situation. The industry was standing behind me with their defense. They said, see, we gave money to this guy, and he did the research, and he's out there blabbing about it. And that's why the plaintiffs wanted to settle. And I felt that simply giving the plaintiffs money without doing something constructive for everybody else was not a good way to go. And that's why we asked for the money to set up the registry. The question about the 3G. One thing that we're doing in communities in the United States now, that we're working with those homeowners to put in fiber optic bypasses so that, it goes back to a common law theory of criminal trespass. If the radio wave is something dangerous and you don't want it on your property, then, at least in the United States, you can bring criminal trespass actions against the heads of the companies who have the responsibility. And what's possible is to establish a shield and then a fiber optic bypass around your property so that you do not have to have those radio signals in your property. If a whole street of homeowners works together in the same manner, now you have a fiber optic bypass around the whole community, and before you know it, you can tie that into the fiber optic infrastructure you already have in place, and before you know it, you have a fiber optic spine, and then you are able to have a distributed antenna system with noise field protection at the nodes. This is a solvable problem. It is not necessary for people to be sick from this technology.
I'm very, very interested, Dr. Carlo, on the technology. I'd be very pleased to hear how one gets it. And from any lawyers present, some notion of criminal trespassing
quickly, then I'm really some questions.
I want to answer the question. There's litigation ongoing in the United States now. There are 7 different class action lawsuits that have been brought. There are 7 different personal injury lawsuits that have been brought. And the basis for those lawsuits is that the industry knew and they lied about it. Evidence in those lawsuits show that while on the one hand the industry is filing for a patent that says we need a shield inside the phone because these radio waves are dangerous, and at the same time, during the same year, in the phone user's manual, when you buy a new phone, it says there are no studies that indicate that cell phones are dangerous. Now, I want to raise one other point. And again, this highlights the difference between research and clinical intervention. Research and intervention. There are a number of published epidemiological studies out there, as Dr. Chalice has pointed out. From a research point of view, Dr. Chalice and others look at that and they parse the data and they say, well, it was only marginally statistically significant there, and that's what researchers are supposed to do. It's what they do for a living. When we look at those studies from an intervention point of view, we know that in those published epidemiological studies, there are more than 300 statistically significant increases reported between cancer and benign tumors and cell phone use. There are more than 300 findings reported in those studies. I know you're shaking your head. Sheila, you're shaking your head. No, the answer is yes. You don't count them. Now, from a surveillance point of view, we look at that and we say that means we need intervention.
Okay, let's have 3 last questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. Okay? Right, 1.
I'm very concerned that Dr. Douglas hasn't considered the German research findings. Professor Carlo has actually done a summary of 1,500 studies in Russia looking at EMFs and regenerative units. There are plenty of studies. I'm drowning in this stuff because I'm getting them all the time and I can't translate them all. And they all show effects, similar to those effects Dr. Carlo has mentioned. But there seems to be nobody who is able to translate it in this country.
I'll let you come back. Yes.
My name is Tom East, and I live on the base stations of Hutchison, Orange, and Redfern. And I went on the roof the other day in Oxford. My blood pressure afterwards went down to 117/70. The next day it was 180, 120. I'm just wondering, does it have an effect on the heart when you go up there?
Okay, and the studio, yes.
I'm a householder, and in our community there's masks getting put up all the time, and we're constantly fighting the masks. My son and I have got burn marrow damage, and I want Dr. Chalice to tell me that I am safe in my house.
Right, and the woman behind, please, yes.
I'm just going to make the point that in this country we have a huge resistance to this process benefit. And there's too much reliance on the word of science at the moment and not enough epidemiological studies in the environment.
Yes.
And people, the public, like Sylvia and many other people in this room, have come up against the planning rules in this country over and over and over again, which sends them round and round in circles because at the moment the public is not being safeguarded by our planning authorities because they are not, for some reason, the legislation to change to full planning rather than full provisional isn't being taken seriously. And furthermore, I've come across local councils are very ill-informed, as are their planning departments, and they make the wrong decisions when the public confers their concerns. And the other trap that is happening in this country is that local councils fear opposing the siting of communications masts installations, because when corporations appeal against them, they have to pay the costs. And so it's a passive form of control in local authorities who fear opposition. And so what I'd like to see the government do is to enable local authorities to make independent decisions without fear by covering, if they have to, by covering the costs of those of opposition.
Somebody would like to know who you are, please. Could I ask you to identify yourself? Sorry.
My name is Karen Mason-Robertson. I made a DVD about the concerns, the issues surrounding mobile telephony in 2005.
Where are you from? Whereabouts do you work?
I'm just a member of the public.
Public.
But
you live somewhere, and
I live in Wiltshire.
Wiltshire, right. Okay, thank you. Well done, right. So you're on. Dr. Chalice, come on. There's been 2 challenges.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to respond to, except perhaps just saying that it's the Health Protection Agency, it's the government, it's the medical officer who makes the decisions. I really am concerned with deciding what is the most important research we need to do. So that's my role, and to analyse, to help with others, many others, to help decide, as George Carlo said, to try and sift through the large number of papers and the huge amount of literature that comes out and try and decide what is wrong, because it's not being replicated, what is right and what is uncertain. It's on the uncertain we try and base the research.
Well, the question was specifically about Germany, I think.
About the Russian book.
About Professor Hicks' translation of the 1500
again,
studies in Russian.
that sort of review of the work will take actually to another body I'm on, but don't speak for, which is the advisory group of non-ionizing radiation of the Health Protection Agency. We review all the work that comes out about every 3 years. And if there is work that is legible to us, is readable to us, then obviously it's included in the review. But I don't think many of us speak Russian.
Translation.
Sorry?
You don't. Why he invents it? Why don't just translate the material that is said?
Well, you better ask the Health Protection Agency, not me.
I'm sure they could get some. You do. Yes, okay. Listen, the last the woman behind. You had a question for Dr. Charles.
Me?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. How can you possibly help us if you don't actually study us? When I've been to doctors with my health problem, my son's, all these said is, they haven't actually asked me what caused it. They haven't even been interested. Now, if they started to ask and I said there was mass everywhere, is that a possibility? And they say no.
We are actually...
They don't know. They don't actually know because they don't ask. So they can't go anywhere towards helping us at all. So I want to know when you're going to start studying people that have got actual health problems instead of...
Well, I'm not a medic, and most of the people on the committee are not medics, so we can't actually in a position to study people. What we can do is look at epidemiological study of masks. And we're doing that both by volunteer studies.
No one's asked me to volunteer, sorry, but I would volunteer.
It has been widely advertised to volunteer in various studies that Elaine Fox is doing in Essex, and the lady over there was speaking about it, she's been on it. Now, as far as epidemiological studies are concerned, we are also doing an epidemiological study of young children from masks. One of the big differences about studying masks is that if a disease is caused, it's probably caused 10 years or more before. Cancer takes at least 10 years after leukemia to appear. So what you need to know is what are the exposure of somebody at some unknown time, about 10 years ago. Masks will have changed, the person's house will have changed, their work may have changed, people travel. The only thing you can do at the moment is with young children, because they're more housebound and leukemia appears in a relatively short time. What we are doing, though, and they've already spent money on it rightly, is a personal exposure meter. And that will tell us the exposure that somebody carrying this meter will do from all sources. So GSM, UNTS, Tetra, radio, television, etc. And we're trialing that, and we intend to carry on doing that in the hope that in the future we can do an epidemiological study of masks. But until we can do that, I think there's anything to do of epidemiology of masks.
Right.